Hey guys, welcome. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying your summer. It is now officially summer for everyone here. So all vacations and fun things, stuff like that. And myself, I am back from SharePoint Saturday London in Scotland, which was awesome. We have several updates to go for you guys today, but we'll go through them pretty quickly. You're just braced with the presence of myself and Tom. Jen is being diligent and working as always. But we're going to go ahead and dive into it. Tom, you want to go ahead and kick us off with something that I think we're both going to make fun of a little bit here?
So yeah, the first one on our list is Microsoft Teams priority notifications in development. So, you'd kind of like, oh, priority notifications, that's a good idea, except for the fact it's like you alert a recipient of an urgent message on their mobile and desktop devices until a response is received every 2 minutes for up to 20 minutes. If anybody ever turns that on for me, I will no longer refuse to work with, or I will refuse to work with them from there on out, because I don't want to be notified every 2 minutes that somebody sent me something.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Matt Wade. He's actually on vacation, and I saw him tweet out about these as the first thing that I saw. So I saw this late last week, maybe early this week. And I was kind of like you. When I first heard priority notifications, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I started reading into it, and my first response was, good God, I hope I can administratively turn these off. I also think it's interesting. It kind of seems like they're going to try to make this like a blue chip feature. If you read more into their notes, they say, note for a limited time, unlimited priority notifications in Microsoft Teams will be made available. This promotion will run from July until December of this year. At this time, all users can use it. Starting January of next year, licensed users will be able to send priority notifications according to the terms of their subscriptions. So it seems like you may have to pay like a premium license to do this, in which case it'll just be, don't pay for that premium license, it's fine, right? Or we'll see what else comes from. Because like, I get the idea of wanting to, having an urgent thing that you want people to do, but I can just imagine myself being in a meeting with a thing going off every 2 minutes, wanting to throw my laptop across the room. So,
this is like somebody sending you an email and then immediately following up with a text going, have you seen my email that I just sent you? No, I haven't.
Well, especially, too, like, I'm trying to think of how I've worked professionally for the last decade, right? If I really have something that's urgent for someone, I'm going to send them a message, and then, like you said, maybe I'll text them or call them if it's like, I need a response now. But I don't want something that this chain annoys them over and over and over again. Like, you use tools at your disposal to try to get a hold of them, maybe call someone else on their team, but, like, outside of that, like, you're just being annoying. Like, it seems...
Yeah, it's like after the third one that comes in on minute number 6, I'm probably going to refuse to answer your question at that point, just on principle.
We'll see where that goes through. We'll keep you guys updated as we go through and find out more stuff about it, but it seems interesting to say the least.
This is our current golden folder scenario where we're going, golden folder? Really, people? Come on.
Oh, man. I could see this like starting fights in the office. We're just see where this
very much so.
We'll lump the next three together. For our customers who are interested in GCC High and DoD, they announced a whole bunch of stuff that they're working on, which is cool. Basically, several features that are going to be trying to bring Teams functionality into parity with what you can get in regular GCC or in the general tenant as a whole. One of which in particular I thought was awesome. They're working on external access. For any of you guys in the GCC High or DoD suite, you know that thing is locked down like a vault. Sometimes you can't even send emails to external people and stuff like that. Like it really is locked down. So the ability to add external access, that just brings Teams to a truly more collaborative feature. Now, I don't know if it's going to be, you can do it to people outside of GCC High. My gut reaction is you can probably open it up to external users that are also in GCC High and DoD, but we'll just have to see. They're also working on unified presence to where the presence is the same as in Skype as in Teams, as well as interoperability between the Skype for Business client and the Teams client. Again, all stuff that exists in GCC and the regular suite as well, but they're just currently working on that, which is nice to see, I think, for the customers that are forced into the parameters of working in the DoD GCC High tenant. It's always nice to see them continue to work and develop some of the functionality uses that make it easier for you to collaborate.
Yeah, I always find it interesting because, of course, we're not in that realm. but then my girlfriend Tamara is, because she's with the city of Minneapolis. So it's always interesting to compare stories about what she's able to do and not able to do, that I'm just like, but we've had that forever. But she hasn't. So.
Yeah, exactly. And oftentimes, too, GCC High or DoD is like, it's like 5 years ago. Like, even when you'll see where GCC is restricted, the DoD today, like I said, like literally, I'm not exaggerating, where I think it's the thing that you can't send email to external people or something. Like it's nuts when you go through and look at how it is. But I think you have the next one, Tom?
Yeah, I do. Expanding your organization's transparency and control over experiences in Microsoft Microsoft 365. This has been something that was really implemented for the Windows environment by and large, back probably, a year ago maybe?
Yeah.
But yeah, now they're rolling it out to Office apps for Mac, iOS, and Android. So basically what it allows you to do is say, when you say, hey, would you like to send us diagnostic information when your system crashes or something, this gives you a little bit more control over that instead of just a blanket, sure, send it, I don't care. So it's a good thing to be able to have more control over your info, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I honestly see this, and this may just be, like, even though I work in the security realm, it's probably because I work with a lot of these people, I see this as almost a way to placate the paranoid CISOs out there and stuff, you know? Or the people who really doesn't like Microsoft but is being forced to use Microsoft products. Like, they're acknowledging, hey, look, there might be your own internal reasons why you don't want to share diagnostic information with us. I probably don't really think this matters too much, but the fact that they're going to the effort to develop this, sure, it will make some CISOs and stuff out there happy, so might as well.
Yeah. So were you going to cover the authentication session management? Okay. Well, then on that note, I have the next couple of ones. We have SharePoint Hub limits being raised to 2,000 from the current 100. This was like huge news at the SharePoint conference, and everybody's like, yay! Now, granted, 2,000 hub sites leads me to that mental image of Oprah Winfrey going, you get a hub site, and you get a hub site, and you get a hub site. 2,000, I'm not sure that you'll ever get there, and I remember one person saying...
Really big orgs, right? I mean, it went from 100 to 2,000.
Yeah, it's like somebody said, if you ever have an organization that has 2,000 hub sites, please let me know, because I really want to know what the use case for that is. I'm just happy that it's over 100 now, because as we're doing our rollout to Office 365 and SharePoint Online, 100 was kind of like, yeah, we're up to about 25 hub sites, and we still have room, but I really don't want to hand them out willy-nilly.
Yeah.
So with 2,000 now, it's like, yeah, I'll be flexible, not a problem. So that's good. And the one after that was retention label inheritance improvement for file moving copies. There was a lot of talk about retention labels and sensitivity labels at the SharePoint conference. This particular one has to do with what retention label gets set if something's being moved or copied to another library or another SharePoint Online site. And, you know, if it didn't have one before, which one will it get? And if it had one before, now what one will it have? So there's variations in there. So if that's something that you are interested in, you'll probably definitely want to keep an eye on that particular roadmap item that is in development right now.
Yeah, I thought this one was just kind of cool. This is just kind of nerdy technical stuff on the back end. When you looked at how retention labels worked before, you would go in and said, okay, I want this default retention label on this folder structure or this SharePoint site or whatever has it. But when you were moving stuff around sites, especially when you were moving around programmatically, that didn't necessarily take into effect. So Tom could go in and say, everything in this SharePoint site, I want to have this default retention label, and then I could move it in the next day, and it's not going to have that retention label automatically. So this is just Microsoft going in and doing some code going on the back end to be more aware of what the default behavior you're potentially wanting to do with retention labels, which this is going to affect a very small amount of people, but for the people that really live and die by retention labels, they're extremely important for your organization and what you do. So for the people that are really, really in tune, and not to, hit the buzzword, but people that are really, really, lockstep with retention labels in their org, I see this as nothing but a good thing. I think it's, again, going to be noticed by a small percentage of people, but the people who notice it are really, really going to love it.
I agree entirely. We have Microsoft Teams information barriers. This is a cool concept. I don't think it will affect a lot of organizations, but I know, like in the financial world, if you have a consumer banking and, let's say, a trading desk function, there's supposed to be this quote-unquote Chinese wall between the two, and you're not supposed to be able to communicate back and forth so that you don't have one group benefiting and influencing from the other one, things like that. This will allow you to set up areas of your organization such that this one group may not be able to communicate with this other group. The particular one they use here in the example is, so if you have frontline worker scenarios, frontline workers can come and go a lot, and you may not want them being able to communicate with your rank and file people who are at the main organization, stuff like that. So you can set those up to say, hey, we're blocking communication between those two, and never the twain shall meet. Good idea, and for the groups that have that kind of scenario, this is going to be a really good fix for them. So good stuff. And probably the last one, I think, not the last one in this particular in development.
Going strong.
Yeah, still going strong here. So this was in development, but it's also later on our list, I think, in launched, where they're using Flow to approve hub site joins. And I think that's really good in the fact that it will make it easier for people to say, hey, I want my site added to this hub, and it will automatically send an approval over to the group that can control that for that hub. So I think that's really a nice use of Flow and a nice built-in workflow that will enable people to get their sites attached to a hub without having to figure out who to call and who to talk to and who to bribe and stuff like that.
Yeah, one of those things, too, I see this as being beneficial if you, as an organization especially, have already adopted and are using Flow. I think the approval process built into Flow is actually pretty impressive, and I think there's a lot of stuff that you can do in there. And so to me, this is just another way to add an approval process into an already working cog and get it going without having to manage another system. So I
Exactly.
So there's a couple that I was kind of interested in. Both of these are kind of small steps of where they're going through and they're potentially taking stuff that may have already been available and making it easier. Tom and I were actually talking right before we started the recording about this one, so we don't have all of the answers yet. But for a while, Microsoft has had a feature they call My Analytics. My Analytics primarily right now is seen if you have E3, and it's basically like the weird, scary Big Brother part of Delve almost. I always kind of laughed whenever end users that I was working with saw their My Analytics. The gut reaction is to panic a little bit, because My Analytics shows you stuff like how often you spend time in email or in meetings, how often you do more than one thing, you multitask in meetings. How long does it take you to reply to a meeting to certain people?
That one right there.
Yeah. So you can say, when Tom emails me, I'll reply in 5 minutes, but when Jen emails me, it takes me 3 hours. And you can see stuff like that. Your gut reaction when you see something like that is, oh, God, they can see everything I'm doing. And I think that's natural. The purpose for it is to make you more aware of how you're spending your own time. If it's, I spend 30 hours a week in meetings, and 12 of those hours I'm almost always multitasking. Well, are those 12 hours of meetings really worth it? Am I actually doing something valuable? That's what it's supposed to do. But again, right now, My Analytics has primarily been available to E3 users. What they basically say is the My Analytics dashboard is going to be coming to more and more Microsoft 365 users throughout the suite. So this is what we call out E3, E1, the Business Suite. They talk about all different Business Essentials, Business Premium, basically all the major flavors other than kiosk. They're kind of specifically calling out and saying it's coming available. But what we don't know, and I think we'll figure out as it starts going from in development to rolling out, and we start to see some previews, we don't know if this is just the dashboard for My Analytics or all of the features that comes with it. Because if it's just a dashboard, it's one of those things we could definitely see it being, hey, you get access to this dashboard, you can see 3 things, but you could see 20 if you went through and had all of these features that could be good. You just have to pay us for an additional charge. So we'll kind of have to see as that goes through over time what it will be.
Yeah, because I did an internal tip on the analytics icon that showed up in Outlook. And I was like, hey, this is cool. It shows me some email that has a phrase in there that could constitute the fact there's a task associated with it or some stuff like that. And, of course, I had one person who's like, well, I'm looking for the one that shows me how to tell how much time I had in email and how long it took people to read my emails. And I'm like, okay. He's like, well, do we have that turned on? I'm like, you've got everything that you're going to get here.
Good question.
Well, yeah, and unfortunately that part was an E5. And we've got E3s for everybody, so I'm not sure whether that part is rolling down now to E3s and company. Yeah, and that one I would really love if that were the case, but we'll find out, I'm sure.
Yeah, the other one very briefly that we saw, so Microsoft Intune has always had some pretty great logs. They basically announced that they're trying to make available Microsoft Intune logs and the Azure Monitoring Diagnostics. So specifically, if you are using other Azure services where you aggregate logs in from the different cloud services that you have, Intune's going to be another thing that you can pull in to see in the Event Hub, to see in the log analytics, stuff like that. So it's just making it in parity with some of the other features or applications may already have, which I think is great.
Nice. So I've got two here that I'm going to hit just really quickly. One is the Outlook for Windows supports Black Office theme, which means black as in color. This isn't a diversity thing that we're doing here, but it basically allows you to turn all the Outlook screens to a dark mode, and there's a sun moon toggle apparently to go back and forth between dark and light mode. I like dark
modes. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't really care what's on my screen. I'm not one of these people who talks about, oh, the contrast is so hard. I'm like, yeah, just deal with it. So it'll be nice to have as another option for the people who really do like that, such as yourself. And then the other one below that was the admin tool TeamSite Auto Mount. And this is in development too. So they're going to allow Microsoft Team admins to be able to go into TeamSite libraries and say, hey, when you're joining into this TeamSite, this library is going to be something that is going to auto-sync down to your local machine. So I can see some situations where perhaps you've got a bunch of salespeople that are on the road and you want them to see the latest information in the document library, but half of them don't remember how to auto-sync down to their laptop. This you can basically say, hey, all our salespeople are in here and we want them to auto-sync so they'll always have the right information. Nice feature. I don't know how often I would actually use it.
Yeah, I think
it's nice to have it out there.
For the exact scenario you talked about, I am someone who, even though I work with other companies and partner with them and help them architect solutions, oftentimes over my career I'm also doing internal IT stuff for both my current company and previous companies I've worked for. Being an Office 365 admin expert, fairly often hey, we have this really weird thing. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to sit with end users who didn't really understand the technology and walk them through syncing stuff down, walk them through mounting. It used to be so much more complicated before they even had the sync button, and even now that you have the sync button, it was something that was always a struggle for certain people. So being able to administratively to say, if you are in this group, you're getting this site, I love it. I think that's great.
Yeah, good idea.
The next ones are kind of weird. There's multiple things listed and rolling out this week that we see has been new and added, but all of the ones that we kind of identified as, hey, that's cool, have a corollary and launched too. So we're going to kind of group the stuff that was listed in both rolling out and launch. What we kind of think is it's a new feature that they're just rolling out to everyone right away. So we'll kind of group all of that together and talk about some. But there was actually two listed and canceled that we always like to highlight the canceled stuff just in case you were aware of something we talked about earlier. If you're watching the roadmap on your own to know what's going on. So we'll kind of mention those real quick. Microsoft Project and Microsoft Planner create a new plan. It's basically the idea of when connecting Planner to a project task, you could have a project task like, oh, I want to go create a new plan to be a part of the bigger picture. I honestly don't see this as being that big of a deal. I don't know anyone who is using Project that was then also embracing and using Planner. If you're using Project, that was basically like Planner on steroids and much better. So unless it was like one person had Project and they wanted their peons to use Planner, I don't really see that going through. You want to cover the second canceled one, Tom?
Yeah, second one is on Outlook for Windows, suggested people with images has been canceled. So this was going to be a feature, to pick the right email recipients from the suggestions provided with their corporate profile picture. Actually, I don't know exactly how that was supposed to play out. I do know that if you're dealing with a group of people who have multiple accounts, such as an admin account and a regular account, it's really hard because you'll type in like Duff and 3 entries for Duff show up. And it's like, okay, which one is the one you're supposed to pick? Well, generally what we're telling people is if you're dealing with me as a member of the company I work for, pick the one with the picture. And that's the one they choose, and that's cool. I don't know what additional thing they were doing with suggestions here that was different than what I see just as normal behavior. All I can really think of is,
I guess they were going to actually pull in your corporate picture from like Active Directory or Delve and put your actual picture in there. That's how I interpret it. It's just you're not going to get the physical picture of the person, but I mean, honestly, who cares as long as you have their name?
Yeah, considering what some people put in as their corporate picture, probably not a bad idea to not do it.
So the next one was kind of an extension of what you and I talked about earlier with My Analytics. It looks like they're also developing an add-in for it. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that the add-in is much like the icon that they have in Outlook for Windows, that you click it and it tells you all the insights based on what you currently have on your screen, but that's just a little panel running down the side. If you're doing something more dashboardy, that's something at a different level. So I'm thinking the fact that this is launched, I think that's what I'm currently seeing in mine for the add-in to Outlook to do the My Analytics. But again, I'm hoping My Analytics eventually becomes, or is slated to become, show me all the detail about my meetings, my work hours, my, all that stuff, because that's the value for me.
Yeah, and as I said, we don't really know what all features would be there. I also did a kind of bad transition there. Tom was good to point out we are into the rolling out launch phase outside of the canceled stuff now. So yeah, as you said, you can already kind of see this coming through. This is not something I would have picked on because I've been on E5 for forever. So it's one of those things that I already kind of had some of these features. But like I said, it's definitely will be interesting to see what all features get rolled out to users and then kind of get their hands on.
Yeah, because I think it hit our tenant about 2 months ago, probably 6 weeks, 2 months ago. And at the time, I was like, this is really cool. But then, of course, we had people who wanted the other piece of it that wasn't there. And I keep getting emails from, well, can you check with Microsoft to know when we're going to get our latest release? I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm really sorry.
You want to talk about anything else in the launch section?
Actually, I don't have anything else flagged in the launch section.
Sure.
So you can roll out and then say goodbye.
There's a couple nerdy things that I should mention. This is not even necessarily something that I use, but I know that there's potentially developers out there. They basically announced if you're doing authentication, they actually launched a library for both JavaScript and .NET built in to make it available for users. So if you're a .NET developer, if you're a JavaScript developer, and you're going through and developing applications and integrations around Azure AD and around what your organization is doing to the Microsoft Cloud, they're actually developing full-on libraries for you that they've released just to make that integration easier. You're no longer going to have to call out a completely independent system. You'll be able to do some of these actual API calls directly inside of your application and still have the same level of security and stuff that you wanted. One that's near and dear to my heart, I've probably talked about this 4 times or so. They finally have launched the Mailflow Insights, which, without getting into it too much, that just is a whole bunch more robust logging and analytics about what your organization is doing with mail. Someone who started an email, I love that. I love the level of insight that they're actually giving everyone. And the final thing that I'm going to throw out that I thought was really cool, they have what they're calling Unified App Registration Experience. What this basically means, so if you do a lot of custom applications right now in the Azure world and the Intune world and Azure AD, all of that, the experience of going through and getting the apps registered varied based on what you're doing it in, how you're actually integrating it and everything like that. They're basically doing a unified experience through the Azure portal. So there'll be a blade called the New App Registration Blade, so just one of the options you can click on in Azure. And when you go through that, you're going to have a very streamlined set registration experience. It's the same for every app that you do. So again, just revamping permissions, revamping the experience, stuff like that, to make the navigation the same for you regardless of how you're going through and doing it. I love to see that. Very, very friendly thing to do for developers. Make it very simple to go through and integrate in. So we're always happy to see stuff like that.
Cool.
And so I think that's all for us this week, guys. Hopefully we'll be back as a threesome next week. And hopefully everyone's having a good summer. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.